What is up, everyone? 2A Michael J here, bringing you another video. Know I've been gone for a little while, but decided just to take a little break. Been very busy. I am in the process of purchasing a 50-year-old business. I'll be the sole owner, but I just been kind of concentrating on that here recently. And I'm still shooting. I'm still going out to the range and stuff. Although I have slowed down quite a bit, just because the cost of ammo's risen in the last 6 months or so. So I'm not quite shooting as much as I used to. I used to go out and shoot 500 rounds of 9mm, or maybe like 300 to 500 rounds of 5.56. Not really doing that anymore. I'm kind of cut it back down to I'm still shooting like 3 to 400 rounds of 9mm at a time, and only about 100 to 200 rounds of 5.56. And I'm doing that every other weekend instead of every weekend. And then there's even some weekends I'm missing every other weekend because I've kind of been swamped in work. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to give you an update on kind of my uploading schedule. I never really uploaded on a regular basis just because I don't really take YouTube that seriously. This is just more of like a fun hobby that I like to do in my free time. And I just like to bring people information just for the sake of it. Like, I'm completely unmonetized. I don't have any sponsors. I'm not a fancy channel by any means. I don't even really do any video editing or cool effects or shooting montages and stuff like you'll see other gun tubers do. And I just do that just for the sake of not having to spend hours editing a video just to make myself look cool. So if you're new to my channel, thank you for watching. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for returning as well. And I'm never going to like beg for likes or subscriptions or anything like that. But if you decide to, that's cool. I appreciate it anyway. If you ever have any questions, just leave them down in the comments below. I usually will get back to you pretty quickly, and if I don't, sometimes I'll miss a comment. It might take me a couple months, but typically I'll at least reply and give you a like on your comment. And it doesn't even matter if it's constructive criticism. I'll still reply to it, and I can take that with a grain of salt. I take constructive criticism pretty well. The only way we're going to be able to improve is by others telling us in areas that they think we can improve, and we can either take it or leave it. But I still appreciate the comments and whatever anyone has to say, regardless. You know what I mean? But anyway, I was kind of doing some work to a newer acquisition that I've picked up here in the last few months. I've had this Glock 48 stock for a while, and just decided just to kind of Gucci it out like I typically do. This time around, I was carrying this. Um, where's the holster? I was just carrying it stock, bone stock. Here's the holster that I had for it. It's not even cut for an optic or anything. No flashlight mount, just a straight Glock 48 holster. And I was just kind of testing to see if I liked carrying this. I was carrying a Sig P365XL for the longest time. It's a really comfortable gun to carry, but what I've noticed when, because I didn't shoot it a ton, and I personally think if you're going to carry a gun every day and trust your life to it, you should get really comfortable with it. And I've just become so accustomed and comfortable with the Glock platform. The controls are basically the same for a P365XL as they are for Glock. What I was finding though is I'm really having to like adjust my grip angle because of the Glock hump. And I just become so accustomed to shooting and holding a Glock that I decided just to go ahead and pick up a Glock 48. I figured that would be the best remedy for that. And just to see how I like it. It's got a nice slim profile. I mean, everyone kind of knows what a Glock 48 is at this point. Glock 43X kind of, it's the exact same gun, except the Glock 48 has a longer slide. Chambered in 9mm. They're typically single stack 9mm magazines. I got a couple here. And then I've been trying out these Shield Arms Gen 3 magazines. I've had some hiccups on them, so that's why I'm fully vetting and testing my products. So right now I have, for whatever reason, this is a Gen 3, and this one has seemed to feed hollow points decently. This one, I've had a few malfunctions, so I'm going to test this a little bit more. I don't shoot my hollow points nearly as much as I should, only because I shoot my defense ammunition. I typically shoot Spear Gold Dot or critical defense or critical duty, and it's like right now, like $1.25 a round. So I'll load up a full magazine, which is 15 rounds, and I'll mag dump it. I'll test out my zeroing. I'll take about 3 to 5 rounds to just to confirm zero. Then I'll mag dump like 2 to 3 magazines just to test reliability of like a new magazine. Not to say I do that with my OEMs, but since this is a third party accessory that's you're basically going to be really depending your life on. Like if you're changing out a mag release, it's still important to test it out, but it isn't as important as testing out like a proprietary style magazine that really wasn't designed for that particular weapon system. So that I mag dumped one, had a few failure to feeds, one failure to eject. I don't know if it's just a fluke because, I didn't have the same issue with this magazine. So maybe I just need to take it apart and oil the insides or clean it or just reseat the follower, something like that. Something along those means. Sometimes your solution could be as simple as a clean and just trying to disassemble, reassemble it, just making sure all the parts are supposed to be where they are. Like that the spring is seated correctly, the followers on the spring correctly. Make sure there's no burrs or anything on the inside of your magazine body or anything like that, making sure your base plate is fully on there. You know what I mean? Like you want to double check that sort of stuff anyway. And I know this gets overlooked quite a bit, but if you shoot through your magazines a lot, you should clean them, clean the inside of them. They do get gunked up with carbon, and what'll happen is your follower will start to stick because of all the crap and junk on the inside. So don't forget to clean out your magazines after. I do it after about 2 to 500 rounds, depending. Some ammunition's dirtier than others, but anyway, let's go ahead and look at this Glock 48. I want to just touch on a few things I've learned um, about this particular Glock over like sorry, it's my cats. I'm basically a Gen 5 shooter, so I shoot a like Glock 45, Glock 19, Glock 17, Glock 47, Glock 49. I shoot basically those types of pistols. I have all those pistols, and I just kind of mix and match them. My main carry pistol, for the most part, is this Glock 19 Gen 5, as you see it right here. And I was noticing a few interesting things about. Here, I'll go show another Glock 19 Gen 5. Why I picked the Glock 48 is because dimensionally, it's basically a Glock 19 size. Everything from it's a little bit longer in the grip. Hold on, a little bit longer in the grip. Definitely slimmer in profile. The slide's about the same length, right? So I thought if I'm used to just this size of weapon system, uh, get the Glock 48 over the Glock 43X. I honestly like the aesthetics of a longer slide on most of my pistols. You'll see I usually rock threaded barrels or comps. On my Glock 45, I have a comp. I've got a Shadow Systems MR920L. Got a P30L. I used to have a VP9L. So I like longer slides. I like a longer sight radius, especially if I'm just shooting irons, and I do shoot with just irons at times just to stay up to date and proficient, because I think that's sort of important. And so that's why I pick a Glock 48 over a Glock 43X. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, right? I don't really understand like the 19X and the Glock 45. People will say um, when you're the benefits of it, your slide will reciprocate faster, so you can get faster split times, follow-up shots. I personally don't. I've measured it. I've got a shot timer. I don't really see a difference. And then with another thing they say is your dot, as the slide's reciprocating under recoil, your dot's going to track easier and faster with a shorter slide. I honestly don't see that either. So I don't really understand the point of the 19 or the 19X. The longer frame and the shorter slide just kind of, it's just weird to me. If that's your cup of tea, that's cool. I mean, I own a Glock 45, so I'm just as guilty, but I bought the Glock 45 to be comped, to kind of, you know, push it out a little bit further. And you can see I don't keep my 19 even, you know, the regular length for the most part. And that even includes, you know, just a regular 19. I always usually keep a threaded barrel or something, just because I like to. But anyway, that's why I picked a Glock 48. I know that was a really long way to say why I picked a Glock 48 over a 43X. And if I really want to, I can always buy a 43X slide and stuff. So the price was right on this. So that's kind of why I picked it up. And I bought it stock, but you can see I kind of tricked it out. All the parts are completely OEM on the internals, at least, so it's empty. And I did want to like kind of share my experiences on things that I learned about this over the Glock 19. And I'm kind of surprised that this is like this. So first thing I saw right off the bat was the finish on the slide. Now, I absolutely love the finish on the Gen 5s, right? This new NDLC finish that they put on the slide, it's very durable. It's a little slick. That's probably like my main complaint about the Gen 5 NDLC coatings. But this is more like a the Tenifer, like the Gen 4 coating, which is fine, you know. But seeing that this is a Gen 5, you can see it's definitely a matter black. It looks more of a gray. It doesn't slip as much, but the coating is already starting to wear off. So I don't know why they didn't coat it with NDLC like with the Gen 5s. I was just kind of wondering why they didn't do that. I would have preferred the NDLC coating. So that was like one of the first things that I noticed with this Glock 48 over like my my other Gen 5 Glocks. So technically, this is a Gen 5 Glock. Another thing that I noticed right out of the box was I changed the trigger, and I usually change the trigger, but I don't know if this is going to pick up on camera, but where your safety plunger is riding on this right here, it's scratching, and there was like a grittiness to the trigger. I could feel it rubbing, and I tried everything from lubing it. I tried filing it down and repolishing it. I polished it. I could not get this from rubbing, and you can kind of see the lines in it from where it was rubbing. And this is this is out of the box, straight OEM. I tried to remedy it, and it worked, right? It worked. It was reliable. I didn't have any issues from it, but that trigger was just terrible, absolutely terrible. And like Gen 5 triggers, they're pretty good, you know, out of the box. I mean, they're not like Canic or Walther or H&K VP9 triggers, but they're decent triggers for the most part. I don't have any complaints about a OEM Glock trigger. But I will say I ordered this Overwatch Precision tack trigger, and man, it made all the difference in the world. It is just so much smoother, so much better. I am so glad that I spent the money on the trigger. And I bought the whole trigger system from Overwatch Precision, and I do believe they actually use an OEM trigger bar, unlike my Gen 5s that I've purchased. Sometimes they'll send you an OEM trigger bar, and sometimes um, they won't. So I would prefer an OEM trigger bar from Overwatch if I have my choice. And you can see here, I don't think it's grinding anymore. It is not. I've shot about 200 rounds out of this, and I really only have about two to 300 rounds out of this one too, but and some dry fire, whatever it is that I'm dry firing. But this made all the difference in the world. So I'm glad I changed the trigger. If you get a Glock 48 or Glock 43X, I highly recommend changing the trigger. So that's something that I noticed that I really wasn't impressed about from the Glock 48. Okay, so another thing that I noticed is I'm familiar with like Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5, how to disassemble them. I'm pretty proficient in it. I can do it relatively quickly without even thinking. In order to take the locking block and the trigger pin out, this pin right here, it wasn't just as simple as pushing the pin out. So what I ended up having to do is pushing down on here while I push out the pin. I had to release that tension. I know on like Gen 3s and Gen 4s, what I would typically do is as I'm pushing out the pin, I kind of have to lift up on the slide lock, slide release, you know, kind of jiggle it around. That didn't work. And I'm just hammering away at this locking block and trigger pin, and it wasn't coming out. So I finally figured out you just got to push down basically where that spring is on that slide lock, slide release right there, and pushing just up on it's not going to do anything. You actually have to put a little bit of tension right, like right there, to push it down as you're taking out that locking block pin. So that was a little bit of a learning curve, because I just kind of figured it was going to be like Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5, but this is different, right? It's definitely something that if you're proficient, like, you should be okay, but it kind of stumped me for about 15 minutes. And for someone that can take a Gen 5 like this, and can take this how it is, completely disassemble it to its basic components. I'm talking everything from your magazine release spring, your magazine button, your takedown lever, like all the internals. Take it apart, put it on a table, and then put it back together, function check and everything. I can do that in about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how much I mess up. 3 minutes is on the really fast end if I'm just completely just killing it. 5 minutes if I've made a few mistakes and stuff along the way. So that's pretty good. Can't do that with any other pistol. That's why I like the Glock. I don't think Glock is the best pistol by any means. It's just very easy to work on. Like, I like being able to do my own work. I don't have to rely on a gunsmith. They're just, if you ever have an issue, they're extremely easy to diagnose problems for. And, you know, like, yeah, you can disassemble a SIG and an H&K, but I've tried to change out a trigger shoe on my P30, and that thing was a pain in the ass. Have you ever tried to take apart your fire control group out of your P365 or your P320? That shit's a pain in the ass too. So that's kind of why I pick Glock, just because of the ease of use and just the parts availability. Magazines are relatively inexpensive, so that's kind of why I do it. Anyway, I know I've kind of beat that dead horse over a few videos on why I choose Glock, but that's why you'll see Glock. I just kind of do it for my newer viewers. Um, Another thing that I've noticed about the Glock 48 is and I changed the slide stop slide release, but it really wasn't that great. So I had a hard time pushing the button, but I don't release it with the slide lock slide release a lot. What I'll do is I'll come over top and slingshot it just to give that little extra push to the back and forward. That's how I usually reload anyway, but That was something that I noticed on the Glock 48. Other than that, it's been a pretty nice platform for the most part. And something that I thought was pretty cool that I noticed about a Glock 48, saying that it is basically dimensionally almost the same size as a Glock 19, right? So here's a Glock 19 with a Streamlight TLR-7A, and here's a Works holster that I had made for this pistol. And you can see it fits great. No complaints on the fitment and stuff. I carry this sometimes, not all the times, but what I found interesting is I can take this holster and it fits. I thought that was pretty cool. I actually ordered another holster for this. I just tried this today, and I was pleasantly surprised on how well it retained it. So I would assume that the custom-made holster that I'm ordering will fit a little bit better. But in the meantime, I can now carry my Glock 48 without having to disassemble it, because my Glock 48 holster, and it even says MOS on it, but you can obviously see they did not cut it for an optic cut, which if you're going to put Glock 48 MOS on your holster, this is from Tolster. They make good holsters. It's very good retention and stuff. I do recommend them, but I prefer Works over Tolster. If you're going to do all that and put a Glock 40 in MOS, just make it for an optic cut. You know, like the sweat guard's cool, but you can just cut it up through here. Keep the sweat guard, and you should be good to go. That's just a little complaint on the holster and stuff, but I thought that was cool. So you have to be very specific on the holster. Obviously, this is for a Glock 19 Gen 5 optic cut with a Streamlight TLR-7A, and you have to have a Glock 48 probably with the ability to with the rail mount and the TLR-7 sub. So that's just something I thought was interesting. But another thing that I noticed, right, on my Safariland holsters, which fit a plethora of different weapon systems. So that's this is a 17 RDS with a Surefire X300 model. This is a 6390 holster. It also fits this, locks in. Actually, it fits in pretty tight with that one. But it also fits the Glock 48. It's a little loose, but it locks in there, and you have to release it. I thought that was kind of cool. So not only does my Works holster for a Glock 19 work, but my Safariland holsters also work for it. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. Just something to kind of keep in mind when you're choosing a concealed carry gun. Now, I conceal carry this gun, but this isn't always the most comfortable gun to conceal carry in EDC. It's heavy. It's a lot wider with the flashlight, a lot longer, a little more cumbersome. So if I'm here in the hot days of Florida, it's definitely easier to carry something like this. And quite honestly, without the light, without the optic, it's extremely easy to carry. If you just kept this bone stock, it's probably one of the most comfortable carry guns that I've personally carried. You know, other than some like 380 pocket pistols that are just super small but really uncomfortable to shoot. And that's kind of why I didn't get rid of it, but I quit carrying the P365XL as much as I did, is because it was snappy to me. It was more snappy than this is. The grip's a little bit longer than a P365XL. I can get a better grip. It's a little bit thinner than the 365XL, but I find that it's still comfortable. And maybe I find it more comfortable just because I'm used to shooting logs, right? So anyway, that's my experiences with the Glock 48 MOS. I'll probably get this Cerakoted at some point, just because I'm not a fan of this coating. The coating, the trigger, the slide release are probably my main complaints with this Glock 48 pistol. But other than that, it's a Glock, right? It's a good little carry piece. Not the smallest gun on the market, but you can pick these up. I found this for $400, brand new. They were running a sale and stuff, and I was in the market for another gun. I almost bought a Glock 19 Gen 5 in the OD green frame, like from the factory, but they were asking $559 for it. I almost bought it. I probably should have, but I really wanted like a nicer carry gun that I was going to train with a little bit more, and then I picked up the Glock 48 because of that. Interestingly enough, the Glock 43 or Glock 43X, it was like $75 more expensive than this. So I guess the Glock 48 isn't as popular as the 43X. But you can see this is what the length of the 43X would be right here. So if you had a light on it, the light's going to stick out just a little bit further. And you can see the dust cover at the end here where you can get your sights and stuff. And how much more it sticks out right there. So another thing you could do, you could comp a 43X to make it almost the length of a Glock 48 as well. But you get a little more velocity out of a longer barrel. Like I said, the sight radius is longer. So if you're shooting irons, you should be more accurate. But that doesn't always equate, but the science is there to back it up. The longer the sight radius, the more precise you can be with your shot. It is what it is. You can't really debate that. Now, whether or not you can equate that to your own proficiency in shooting, that's another thing. So if you're a shit shooter, it doesn't matter how long your sight radius is going to be. But let's just go over the parts real quick, just to show you a little bit of a rundown. All the internals are OEM, like I had mentioned. So the connector, firing pin assembly, safety plunger, locking block, all that sort of good stuff is all completely OEM. I was running a Shield Arms mags in this, right? The Shield Arms mags do work, but I didn't like the Shield Arms magazine release. It's a steel magazine release, and sometimes I do run OEM mags out of here. And I figured a good compromise would be a aluminum magazine release. So it's still going to chew up your OEM mags a little bit, and your steel mags, these Shield Arms mags, are going to chew up your magazine release a little bit, but it's a good little compromise so you can run both magazines if that's something you want to do. I did change the backplate. I put a lot of Tyrant products on here. I used to be a huge fan of Tyrant. I've now just become like a somewhat fan of Tyrant. Some of their parts have worked for me, and then I've had real bad issues, mostly with their slide lock slide releases. So I quit running those as much. Put a Tyrant magwell because not many people make magwells for this, especially in different colors. I think Shield Arms makes a magwell. Overwatch Precision might make a magwell. It's pretty limited on magwells for a 43X or a Glock 48. So I went ahead and got the gold Tyrant magwell. I got the Tyrant magazine release. Looks pretty nice, I think. It's actually my first Tyrant magazine release. I usually go with another brand or keep it OEM, just because I usually run OEM mags on like my 19s and stuff. But it's nice looking. I got a extended slide lock slide release from I don't remember who it is. It's name brand and stuff, but got some pin sets and a takedown lever. Oh, the takedown lever, man! I always do the takedown levers because, man, this makes my life so much easier just to have it extended just a little bit more. TLR 7 sub for the Glock. And you have to buy, I think, the MOS versions of the 43X or the 48 in order to get the actual rail mount. Otherwise, you'll have to get a TLR 6, I believe. I put some Angry Bear they call them tall sights. They're really, really inexpensive sights. I quit spending a lot of money on my backup sights because I don't really utilize them that much. They're just basically for backup. I usually get them blacked out now. These were like 30 bucks. They're full steel. They're decent sights. My only main complaint is how it does stick over the slide just on the back just a little bit. So I thought it just looks strange to me. That's probably the thing that I don't like. And then I thought you could direct mount a 407 or a EPS or a 507K on onto a 48 MOS. You cannot. You still have to buy an optic plate. Now, there's a way to go about it. There's actually two sets of recoil lugs. The first one you'd have to grind down, and then the second one you have to completely grind down the first set in the front, and then the back set you just have to like take a little bit of material off. I decided not to do that and just opted for an optic plate. It's from CH Precision. I know people don't really like CH Precision. I personally haven't had any issues with CH Precision. I've run two other optic plates of theirs. So I'm okay with them. The tolerances might not be as tight as something like Forward Control's design, but they're still decent optic plate, especially for the 43X. So I had this 407 laying around. I like the 407 over the 507. It's because the 407 has a 6 MOA dot, whereas the 507, I think you're stuck at like a 2 MOA dot. So I kind of like a larger dot for a carry gun, just because I'm mostly shooting within 25 yards and end. So I don't need something like super small and precise. I want something that I can easily pick up and find target quickly. I Overwatch Precision tack trigger. These Overwatch Precision triggers with the trigger bars are kind of expensive. It was about $100. Magwell, I think, was like $50. Magazine release buttons about 25. Slide stop slab release was about 20. I think it was about 20. And then the pin set and takedown lever I got for like $20 too. $30 on the sights. Flashlight was like $130. And then the optic, I actually picked up the optic for like $150 on sale a while back. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. Backplate, I think it was about $15. Shield arms mags, I actually bought both shield arms mags and the magazine release from a friend of mine. He sold them to me for $50 for all of it, so I'm cool with that. And then what's funny is, I got two mags that came with the gun, but I got an old single stack mag. Some guy, we traded guns, and I had got a Glock 19 from him, and this was one of the mags he gave me. So for the longest time I couldn't even use this magazine, but now I can. So it's kind of nice to have some extra mags. What else can I say about this? I think that's about it. I'm not sure what else I'm going to do other than Cerakote and stuff. Obviously, waiting on a holster. Um, it shoots well, and like I said, this is more comfortable to shoot for me than my P365XL. Do I like the features of the P365XL better though, if that makes sense? Like, it comes from the factory with better sights, a better mounting solution for your optic, a better trigger with the trigger that I was provided at least. Um, and if you're just cleaning the gun, not completely disassembling it, it's pretty simple too. So I don't know. There's definitely some good things about that P365XL. The grip texture is better than this Glock 48. They still have that annoying proprietary mounting system. They've alleviated that with the X Macro. But if you're going to go with the X Macro, I mean, you might as well carry a compact or another gun. The X Macro is so big. You're getting like 17 rounds of capacity, but I'd rather just have a full size or a compact, double stack gun, in my opinion. If you're just going to run a gun that size, yeah, you're getting 2 extra rounds, but honestly, I'd rather be able to carry something and use something for duty, like for training, that are just the same gun. It just makes life easier instead of designating one thing for carry and another thing for, you know, like your training days and range days and stuff. So, and again, this is kind of why I picked this gun, because it trains pretty much the same as a Glock 19, and the Glock 19 is my main weapon that I use, and I think that is very cool that holsters that work for my Glock 19. And look, it's got good retention. It doesn't click like my Glock 19 will. You get a nice positive click from my Glock 19. There it is. So you don't get that, but it still retains it. Still pretty cool. Oh, and then I bought a Tyrant magazine extension. This gets it to a 14 round capacity, so you get 15 rounds with the +1. And I don't know, these Shield Arms mags, they look thicker, but they're not. But you can see you're getting the same capacity, or one more capacity, with how much shorter that you're getting. But if you want some extra rounds or something, you can always get a magazine extension like this. I've always liked Tyrant's magazine extensions. These are really good. They've gotten a little more expensive here recently. I used to be able to find these for about 30 bucks. I think I paid 36 for this. So it's a little much for a magazine extension, especially seeing that you can pick up 1.5 OEM Glock mags for the price of one magazine extension. But it is nice to, I carry this in a sidecar, or I'm going to carry this in a sidecar, and it is nice to carry like a flush fit magazine with an extension as your backup. And honestly, I trust this, magazine setup more than I would trust this magazine setup. 2 Shield R's mags. So you can get 30 rounds of capacity out of it, but I'd rather have 24 rounds of confidence than 30 rounds of it might feed. You know what I mean? So until I can properly vet these Shield Arms mags a little bit more, and I basically want to be able to shoot 100 rounds without any sort of failures before I can completely trust these magazines. Whereas I have confidence in the OEM Glock mag. So anyway, I'm going to do some more videos. I'm going to do another video on my duty gear, because I've purchased a few plate carriers. I've purchased 6 level 4 plates. I've got another battle belt and some, like, I purchased like a bunch of pouches. I'm going to go over some duty kit, and I'm going to go over like my favorite pair of pants. And I don't think people talk about the clothing that you wear on an everyday basis, and how well that kind of coincides with, so like, I'm like a prepper type lifestyle. I'm definitely prepared. I keep a lot of like things in my pockets, and wearing the right type of pants that are going to hold up, um, I think is going to be important. I'm going to touch on that a little bit more. I'm going to touch on clothing in general, because I think shoes are another good thing that people don't really talk about in the gun community. But I think picking a good pair of shoes, and I'm going to give you a little spoiler on it. I rock Altamas now, and that's just because of how they're relatively comfortable. They're extremely inexpensive, especially right now. You can buy them for like 40 or 50 bucks a pair, and they come in a lot of cool colors. I got black multicam, regular multicam, M81 woodland. I mean, I've been buying a lot of Altamas just because they're good for the price. They're great for the price. They hold up really well. In my line of work, I'm constantly getting my feet wet and dry, using chemicals. All my shoes are just falling apart. My Altamas have held up great. So I'm going to go over that here in a future video. And I've got some other projects in the work too. I haven't really been messing with my ARs as much. I've been mostly doing my pistols, only because it's cheaper to shoot pistols. It's easier to take your pistol out than it is, like a rifle bag and stuff. But I'm going to start doing a little more content. I just needed to take a break to kind of figure out how I was going to uh, change this business into my name. I've also got surgery. I got some eye surgery done. Um, Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like life throws itself at you sometimes. And this isn't what I do for a living. So anyway, it's been a 40-minute video on a Glock 48. If you've made it this far, that's great. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And like always, guys, thank you for any support. Thank you for a view. Thanks for a hate comment, whatever, man. It doesn't really matter. I'm pretty easygoing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys later.